Welcome everyone. Can you hear me? I want to welcome you all to the IDW Drawing Ponies panel. I am Alexander. I am the head of design for BABSCon. I'm also a historian in pop culture and comic books. And I'll first allow each of our panelists to introduce themselves one by one. I'll start off by asking them a few questions about the comic making process, and then we'll have the rest of the panel open to the floor, taking Q&As until 12:30. Does that sound good? First of all, happy Easter, everybody. Now, Heather, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Heather Breckel. I'm the colorist on the official My Little Pony comic. I also work on the Ninja Turtle comic for IDW, and I work on many other things as a colorist because I guess I don't like having a life, so I work on like 1,000 books a month. So that's about it.
I'm Tony Fleecs. I draw for the official My Little Pony comics. I'm gonna go through and say what I did just because I like saying all the names. I drew the Rainbow Dash Micro Series issue and the Fluttershy Micro Series issue, if you guys are Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy fan. I did Equestria Girls Annuals, and I did Friends Forever issues about Discord, the Cutie Mark Crusaders, Fluttershy, Sakura, Granny Smith and the Flim Flam Brothers, all kinds of stuff, Princess Luna. And right now I'm working on 2 issues of the main series. There'll be issues 32 and 33. And I've done covers. I've done like 100 covers. So.
And I'm Jennifer Blake. I'm the newest kid working on the official My Little Pony comic.
Officially.
My first issue is My Little Pony Friends Forever number 16, which is Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. And then also Heather and I have a retailer incentive.
We sure do.
From 4 Color Grails for My Little Pony number 30, and it's Power Ponies. So that should be, I don't know if that's actually announced officially on the site.
Officially.
I mean, it's just a
But we're announcing it here. We're announcing it here.
exclusive.
Exclusive.
On Sunday.
And that's all I've done now. I'm new, so that's all I've done so far.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, let's start with an easy question. What is the one issue that was your favorite to work on?
I feel like the one that's usually near and dear to me is issue 3, since that was the one that I got to like go crazy on for the first time. But before then, I guess after then, since I think I've colored like 40 something issues now. I really like working on the Tyrek issue, which comes out this coming up week, and I got to finally do a different style than what I do on the ongoing, so now it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, she killed that issue. If anybody wants, I have the whole thing on my phone. If you want to see it before Wednesday, you can just come up.
I think they're recording this. You're gonna get us in trouble. Bobby's gonna kill us.
I'm gonna have their jobs.
That was Jenn Blake, by the way. Yeah, my favorite. I really like working on the Tyrek issue also. I think it came out really cool and different. But other than that, the best one I think I ever did is Friends Forever number 9 with Granny and the Flim Flam Brothers. And there was a whole lot of ponies in that one. And it was hell on Heather to have to color every single one. But I think it came out really nice.
That's kind of an unfair question for me.
16.
So my favorite was drawing 1 through 4. What no one really knows is Andy was in a coma, and I actually did that for him. No, Friends Forever 16, obviously, and that's been my favorite so far.
Okay. Well, let's move on to maybe a more complex question. The current style we have in the show is based off Warren Fouts' concept art, and it's made to fit the animation medium, specifically Flash, which uses puppet rigs. When you're working in comics is a vastly different medium. So what changes have you added working with this medium that you think differentiates from the show itself?
Well, the nice thing about these comics and working with Hasbro in particular is that they sort of give us a little leeway to not, like if you do Disney licensed comics, it has to be 100% on model the whole time. And these, they're okay if we incorporate sort of our own style or our own character designs. I mean, they're not looking for a complete from the ground up redesign. But if you have, like, I draw the eyes differently than the Lauren Faust original designs had. And nobody goes like, well, they're not supposed to be triangles ever. So I never get calls like that. So I found that's been really nice. And the more I sort of lean into my own style, I feel like the better the books look. At the very beginning, I had like a bumpy first issue for sure because I was trying really hard to have an on-model thing, and I felt it was just sort of stifling. And once I sort of got past that, I feel like the books have gotten better and better.
And I kind of felt that too. My very first work was with IDW Limited on this the return of Queen Chrysalis, this red label, and they had me do these original hand-drawn sketch cards. And I remember talking, with the guys from IDW Limited. They were very saying that Hasbro wants everything show accurate, and he needs to look exactly like the cartoon. So I know those first things, for me, I try to look very much like, hey, I'm going to try to capture that style because I kept being told that's what they wanted. But then after that, just as I kept drawing ponies more for myself and learning and working with Bobby and sending in art, I started trying to put my own little spin on it. And I think it's like Tony said, it's like really cool that we get to do that. Like we don't have to just look like a Lauren. We can put ourselves into it, and it does in the end make the book look better. Because then you feel like it's more your own art.
And it's more, like when you get the comics, you're getting something that you can't get anyplace else.
Right.
Because they make those ones that are just like scans from the show, and those are cool, but you also could see that right in the show. So.
Yeah, it's like when I first got the job, I started on issue 1, and I was like, it was really daunting to me because I was like, how can I interpret the art and make it look like the show? Because I just do the colors, but CMYK and what you see in the show don't really play well together. It's like CMYK is pretty much like it's a color mode that's designed for print, and a lot of vibrant colors don't really work very well. So I think every time I go to color like Lyra, I'm like, well, I guess I kind of got her the right colors, but it's like every time I select her colors in Photoshop, it's like CMYK is like, no. But when I went to color the first issue, I was like, I didn't really want it to look exactly like the show. I wanted it to be in the general ballpark because it can just be too restrictive to try and make it look exactly like the show. So I try to make things recognizable, but I also want it to look like something uniquely me because it's like Andy has such a bold style. Yep. So I was like, well, it wouldn't really work if I tried to make this look like Flash.
Your coloring is really amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Agreed.
The next question I'm going to ask is one that's asked at a lot of comic book conventions, but how did you break into comics?
Should we just go down the line?
Yeah.
There's no every time people ask me that, they always expect that there's going to be a cut and dry specific way to break into comics, but everyone I know has done it differently. But the way I did it was I was friends with someone that I met online, James Stocco, who ended up working on Godzilla Half Century work for IDW, and that's how I met Bobby Curnow, and I started to work on Ninja Turtles through him. And then when I learned that Pony was happening, I asked him if I could work on it, and I got to. But pretty much it was just I knew people, and that's how I got work for Image. I got work for Dark Horse because I just have other friends in the comic industry, and they're just like, no one wants to be a colorist, so no one knows any colorists besides me. So I'm like, well, sure, I'll do whatever. You have this book for Marvel, all right. That sounds cool.
It's not as simple as just knowing people. You know people because you make comics.
Yeah.
So the best advice for breaking into comics is make your own stuff, and then you show that around and you meet people and you make friendships and you build on that, sort of, I guess. That's pretty much what I did. I made a comic. I put it out there, people bought it, and then I got hired to do other stuff, and 6 years later I drew My Little Pony. So it was sort of a long and circuitous road, a very broke road, the brokest road.
Mine's been a 10-year journey, because I always wanted to do comics. It was always in the back of a bucket list thing. I've actually was a fashion designer most of my life. So I really just always back in my head thought one day I want to try comics. But it took a long time because it was still, when I was kind of starting, it was still the early years where a lot of girls were not getting those kinds of jobs. And maybe it was just people I was meeting, they weren't being as openly, nice about it. But a lot of it too is I'm trying to draw Superman, Batman, and I like it. That's just not my wheelhouse. So it wasn't until I heard IDW was announcing the My Little Pony comics, and I thought I'm just gonna try. I'm just gonna take a stab at it. And it's been about 2 to 3 year process for me where I finally got, actually started doing something that was panel to panel and story. That Bobby could see that I could do that. I could translate that kind of thing. And so it's been, I still don't know how. I don't believe this is real life. I don't think this is actually happening right now, but so.
It's interesting that you all have different stories. And I think it was Joe Quesada or one of the Marvel editors who says once one person finds a way to break into the comic book industry, that way is now cut off for everyone else.
Right.
So each path is a new path. And on that topic, the comic book industry right now is kind of dominated by the superhero genre. When you look at television, novels, or film, they're not restricted to one specific genre, but with, of course, DC and Marvel, they kind of dominate the entire comic book industry. Do you see a shift towards more independent comics now that you're working with independent publishers and non-superhero comics?
Well, I feel like superheroes still king. I mean, especially because of the movies and stuff. But I mean, I'm also thankful for them there because I feel like a lot of the superhero stuff is bringing in more people into just comics in general. But smaller publishers are starting to become like much larger now. I mean, look at Image. Like they started back in the '90s and they were a little bitty, and now they
Only Press and Avatar.
Yeah, now they have like Walking Dead and stuff, and people like all the like television companies are descending upon like IDW and Dark Horse for like ideas and stuff. So I feel like we're starting to get like a lot more recognition, and people are starting to like discover like more indie titles, like just stuff by like creator owned by IDW and Image and publishers like that. So
Yeah, we're not really in a great place too to complain about superheroes dominating because we work on a wildly popular comic book. So it's like all my friends who would love to make fun of me for drawing, tiny ponies because they draw superheroes. I can just throw my numbers in their face.
I think for me, it's like I really like, what I like about like IDW and the smaller press too, is I think they go out and find talent that Marvel and DC is not going to bother looking at, because Marvel and DC they don't want you to already established name kind of. There's not like a lot of that open submissions to them. So I think that's a big credit to IDW is that they go out there, they find different ideas. I mean, they have Galaxy Quest, they have Edward Scissorhand comics, so they really try to bring in different ideas and things that you're not going to see everywhere else. And I think that's just a huge credit to that just the way that comics are changing is that you just don't have to have a cape and a cowl anymore. You can just, there's so much out there now.
And I guess I'll have one last question before I open up for Q&A. Since Tony wanted a more complex questions, you guys can all answer this. But in the comic book industry, there's two very big writers, both British. They are also chaos magicians. They're Alan Moore and Grant Morrison. They both have a theory that art, specifically comic books, are a form of magic. In their definition, magic is creating something that manipulates symbols and visuals, and when someone looks at it, it changes their consciousness. In that definition, when you read a comic, you can feel emotions, you can have worlds of vision in your head. So in a sense, that is kind of magic. In a sense, you work on a comic where the theme is friendship is magic. Have you seen any magical properties like what Alan Moore and Grant Morrison are talking about with the comic book medium? Tony, want to go first?
yeah.
No.
You think they're both crazy then?
Well, I mean, I guess for me, like, I was always like a big reader growing up. So, I mean, to me, reading in general is magical. It's like, I mean, comics are still like literature, so I kind of like look at them the same way. It's like they kind of teleport you into like their own world and stuff. So I guess that's kind of magical.
Yeah. But I mean, by that same rationale, like the picture menu of McDonald's is magic also.
If you really like McDonald's.
I think Grant Morrison will argue that the McDonald's logo is a sigil that's supposed to.
Exactly.
That's why if you look at all the food companies, they're always black and red and yellow. So
Oh yeah, there's actually a science behind that. They
Yes.
figured out like those two specific colors make people hungrier.
Yeah,
It's like that's like black magic right there.
exactly.
I'm getting hungry just talking about it.
I know. I really need a double now.
Go get the caviar.
Get some in and out, yeah.
I don't. If Grant Morrison said it, I'll just agree with him. I'm not gonna mess with Grant Morrison.
That sounds pretty smart.
You don't want to anger Grant Morrison and Alan Moore.
No, I don't want to end up
They'll
in.
send their
I
black
don't.
magic after you.
I don't want to end up in the next Invisibles comic or something.
Okay, so I guess we'll open up for Q&As. Raise your hands, and I'll just pick on you one by one. Let's see, who's first.
Mostly, we just draw the pictures, and the writers have written the script usually a little while before we even hear about it or see it. But sometimes there's a bit of collaboration in so much as if you know about it ahead of time or like early on in the script, if you get it, you read through it, and you can say like, what if we tried this, or maybe in this panel we should do this. No, I don't think anybody yet has written and drawn an issue. Katie, who writes the main series, sometimes will do little backup stories, so she writes and draws those. But pretty much everybody that works on Ponies is either writing or drawing.
Okay. So one person here, you. From memory?
Yeah, I always drew from memory. Like I remember when I went to art school and there was all these like prodigies that were amazing at drawing like still lifes, and they could always draw from reference, and they were amazing at that. But they would always come to me, even though I was like total garbage at like life drawing. They would always come to me and they'd be like, "How do you do that?" Because I feel like there's a lot of people that are just naturally more like able to draw from their imagination. It's like that's what I've always done. But if I try to sit down and draw a still life, I have a really hard time interpreting it. But I guess for me, it's always really helpful to have like a sketchbook, just draw whatever comes to mind. Try to come up with like, even if you don't want to do comics specifically, try to come up with your own like little worlds so you can like design concept art and stuff. So I mean, reference is still really important too, but I think it's really valuable to be able to come up with stuff on your own. I hope that made sense. It's hard to word what I mean sometimes.
No, that made sense. I have a horrible memory, and so I've been working on these characters for like 3 years now, and I still will sometimes Google rarity, or like the most basic.
Right here. Sitting right next to you.
Yeah. Well, like the most basic poem, like Twilight Sparkle. I'll have to look up just to make sure that I'm doing the bangs right or something,
Her hair is weird, so
Yeah.
I mean, I understand.
Yeah, but I mean, so sometimes it's drawing from memory. Definitely when it's storytelling, when it's just putting down pony bodies and actions and acting and stuff like that just sort of comes straight off the top of the dome. But the actual detailing and inking, sometimes there's reference involved. But there's no such thing as cheating when you're drawing, unless it's like straight up tracing, which I've also done. But I mean, look, these things got to come out every month.
That's right.
That's backgrounds.
As long as you're not breaking land, so.
Yeah, I am certainly not.
I think for me, it's a lot of, there is the memory involved as well, but, I have no problem, like, referencing stuff. I mean, sometimes I'll just look at other artists, like, for inspiration more than anything. Like, for me, it's never Tony's. It's never Tony's. Tony, when I look at his art, I go, how did he get that job again? Like, for me, like, J. Scott Campbell, I don't know if anyone's familiar with his art. He's one of my strong influences, and like looking at his art, and that really inspires me to get better. But yeah, a lot of it again is memory, and like for me, if I like doing like when I do like a Crush Your Girls commissions and stuff like that. For me, I like it more because that's more my wheelhouse because I get to do the fashion kind of side to it and come up with different clothes, and that'll be straight right out of my mind, just coming up with a new outfit we'll run it on.
Okay. Let's see. Yes.
Okay, first off, I do have to apologize. My voice is a little hoarse. Mine isn't my impression of their long when before you became like in your profession, like you're just trying to get good and stuff like that, you ever have trouble like doing art? Because I was told you can't always rely on inspiration to get yourself to draw. And if you did, what did you do to get through that?
You got something?
I mean, there was actually, this is a little bit of a sad story, but there was a period for a few years where I was agoraphobic. So I never left the house, and I actually lost the ability to draw. Like there was nothing in my head I could no longer do. And to get through that, I actually started trying to look at like anime and manga style. And that's sort of how I started bringing myself back, is like really just, straight up looking at anime and trying to draw like that exact style just to get myself reaccustomed to drawing. And I think every artist, we have an art block once in a while. We all get, like we just can't see it. But you just can't quit. Even though when you're sitting there going, I can't do this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Just try something every day. Like I have a tiny little sketch diary. It's like this big, and every day I do a little sketch, and I'll draw something I'm not even familiar with. Like I'll find something like I think I did Godzilla in there one time. That's not my wheelhouse. Like I did a Transformer one time, and usually these little sketch diaries take like 20 minutes. That Transformer took me like 3 hours. Well, because there's so many straight lines,
Yeah, robots are hard.
and I don't like it. I don't want to do it. So, but I think that's the other thing is like, just try to draw everything and anything, to help you get through that.
I found what works best for me is working with other people. So if you know other people that are also artists or trying to be artists, if you can manage to get together and draw, it's sort of, it encourages, if you see someone else working, it's hard to not also work at the same time. You feel bad about yourself. But and the other thing is just start drawing and draw through it. Don't be afraid to erase or to start over. Having this as my actual full-time job, I don't really have time for artists. Thank you, job. I don't really have time for artist block, so if I'm not feeling it in the morning, I just get up and I start moving my arm and start doing something, and eventually it'll turn on and it'll work.
Yeah, it's like, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I'm on like anywhere from like 2 to 6 comics a month. So I just what I do is I just set myself a very strict schedule when I make myself work no matter what. So that's how I end up getting things done. Because it's like, I find like a lot of people, when they give themselves a really open-ended schedule, they tend to slack off and play video games and stuff instead. So
A lot of people.
yeah, there's quite a few. But yeah, I always like set myself a goal for the day, but like no matter what, I have to get like 3 to 5 pages done today. Even if I don't feel like it, I'm just gonna have to deal. And I won't allow myself like video games or watching anime or anything like until after I've finished all my work. So for me, it helps to just give myself like a motivator, be like, it's like treat yourself. So
Treat yourself.
treat yourself 2015.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, for me, it helps to give myself like a little reward every day. Like I remember like Twin Peaks, they were like, make sure you give yourself a present every day from you. So that's always a good motivator. Be like, hey, I can go play stupid video games later if I get this stuff done. Even if it doesn't end up being good, just, come up with like goals every day. Feel like I want to get one drawing done today. I want to get all these pencils on this comic book page done today. So just come up with like little goals and try to set schedule. It really helps a lot.
I actually get to do that every time I finish the page. I got to buy a new pair of shoes. So it's a 22-page comic.
It's a lot of shoes.
I have 22 new shoes that my girlfriend doesn't know about.
Okay. Yes, you. Yep.
Digital is kind of the easiest.
I'm traditional. I'm the dying breed. Thank you.
Don't clap, she's dying.
Thank you. People are dying, Tony. I like traditional. I think there are a lot of like benefits to doing digital. I think there's like watching people use the Wacom. Like if they do a panel, they don't have to do it just in that little artboard. They can expand it and get a little bit more room. But at the same time, this is just sort of my view. I have always preferred traditional because I sort of feel like that's you in that drawing. It's like a piece of your soul in a way. And I feel like digital, it kind of, I mean, not against digital, I feel like that kind of gets taken out of it. But I think there are a lot of benefits to digital, like especially speed and all that kind of thing. But for me, it's, I like being traditional until they tell me, no, you need to learn.
Yeah, I think digital is the fastest way to work. I still draw my pages or my covers traditionally, but I lay them out or pencil them first digitally, and then I print out and ink over top of that. That might be just as fast for me at this point. I just went digital like a month ago, like full digital. So.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, you noticed?
No, I didn't notice.
Yeah, no. Well, my inks will still be traditional. So they'll look the same. Yeah. You'll never notice.
Well, yeah, I mean, digital is pretty much the easiest, but
And
like.
for a colorist, like.
Oh yeah.
No other way.
It's like there's the dude that works on this comic called Black Sad. He does these beautiful, gorgeous, like masterfully hand painted pages, and they're incredible. And I highly recommend anyone checking that comic out. But he does like one comic every 5 years or something. So I wouldn't recommend it if you want to go down my career path. There's just no way to traditionally do my job. Because so I just do Photoshop and use a Wacom tablet and that's it. But for drawing, it's like digital's just a tool. I mean, it's really what you make of it. It's like I just don't have the patience to deal with oil paints and such.
Like Ross.
Yeah, it's like cadmium red takes 6 months to dry if you use oil paint, and they will. It's like oil paints are really toxic and will kill you. So
Oh yeah.
I just go digital.
I use oil paints and yeah, it takes forever to dry. Okay, you in the white, you had your hand up, so.
In the comics, I really love the princesses. I'm sure part of that's also the writers, but I want to know how you got your inspiration to draw and follow this art compared to the show actors.
For the princesses, I tend to draw them. The ponies, I draw like My Little Pony, and the princesses, I tend to draw more like horses. And I think they do that in the show too. They're not just like stretched out ponies; they're more horse-like. And I think because the horse is like a graceful, beautiful creature. That sounds so creepy. You know what I'm saying?
This is the wrong panel for that, Tony.
But it's real easy to make the princesses look beautiful when you sort of put them in a more like proud horse sort of place. So that's. Oh yeah, and the mains you can go crazy. There's this guy Terry Moore who does this book Strangers in Paradise and Echo, and the new one's called Rachel Rising. But he does books that don't have superheroes, and he said early on when he was working that because he doesn't have capes, he draws hair. And I sort of pretty much do the same thing with ponies. Like if I want some emotion or action in a scene, it's really easy to just whip the hair up in the air, and it makes it look, more exciting.
I haven't drawn the princesses yet.
Aww.
Thank you. No, I did. No, I think Twilight was in Friends Forever 16. Yeah, she was.
Like a panel.
Yeah, so I did her, but she doesn't really have the flowing mane, and she's still kind of small. So, I got to draw Rarity, so I was happy. I was happy there.
Yeah, on my end, it's kind of annoying because I really have to try and figure out how Shadow's gonna work. Because on Celestia and Luna, I'm like, to me, their hair looks more like it's a magical entity. So I try to do that without shading, so it looks like it's made out of magic. But
It's its own light source as well. So.
Yeah. But yeah, that makes things kind of hard if I want to do dramatic lighting on a page. But it for me, it's just hard to interpret it from the show because I don't know how they do it, how they do Celestia's hair on the show, but it's I have to manually go and draw how the colors are gonna work. And I think Amy Meberson has a specific custom gradient that she made in Photoshop, but I'm too lazy for that.
Okay. Do we have any questions from kids first? Any kids in the audience have any questions? Okay. Sure.
Approximate
always like since I was it's sort of unfair because I've got a lot of brothers and sisters who didn't always know, and so it's hard for me to understand what they're going through, like if they have trouble with jobs or whatever, because they sometimes just don't. But since I was about 4 years old, since I knew that people were artists and there was such a thing as jobs, I was pretty sure that was what I was doing. How old are you guys? 11, 7. Do you guys like to draw? Oh yeah? Oh, that's great.
Awesome.
Do you have some with you?
Oh.
Next year, bring some. We'll take a look at it.
You have a question?
I think that's obvious for me. It's rarity. It's rarity.
I like drawing the princesses best, probably. They're the most fun to me. But if I'm in a rush, my favorite character to draw is Sir Lancelot. It's very, very easy.
Yeah, I think my favorite to color is probably Luna, just because she's the easiest of the princesses to color, and I have like a custom brush where I do her hair, so I'm like, whoever's easy is usually my favorite. Because Rainbow Dash is my favorite pony, but I hate coloring her so much.
Yes.
Well, I just said mine.
I don't like drawing Twilight Sparkle. I don't know why. Everyone, like my manager was always telling me, he's like, "Oh, your ponies look so good," and it's like, you just don't care about Twilight. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, it really shows that is your least favorite pony ever.
Wow.
You know, it's because she's so good, and it just bothers me. I'm like, can you just have like one flaw? Can you just do something wrong one time?
I'm curious, if you had to redesign Twilight Sparkle, how would you draw her?
Doing something bad.
Doing something bad. Yeah.
Like she smokes now.
Yeah, she smokes. She's a heavy drinker.
She rides a motorcycle.
Yeah. She lives in the bad side of Equestria.
She has a tattoo with a bunch of wolves on it. And like the American flag and a bald eagle like crying.
Let's pitch this to Bobby on Monday.
So when can we expect the negative Twilight comic?
July.
My least favorite to draw is Derpy. Well, give me a second. Jeez.
I just hate her that random.
You're the worst person ever.
I love Derpy. She's just difficult to draw correctly because look, for me.
She's got one instant.
I know. Here's the thing. She looks from being a character that came from being a mistake. She's wrong to like. All right, you guys are all jerks.
Tell us how you really feel, Tony.
To draw her looking incorrect correctly is more difficult than just drawing a horse looking correctly. There are known knowns and there are known unknowns. And there are unknown. Okay. Well, it's just, yeah, not even offensive. If she doesn't look wrong in the right way, she just looks wrong.
I'm so confused.
It's pretty circular. I'm sorry about that.
You in the back.
Yep.
Tony, right?
Yeah.
How long have you been working on the comic? Have you been working since the first issue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then my question is, how in the world did you come up with Fluttershy's expression when Chrysalis made her big reveal?
Oh, that was Andy.
Oh,
So
Andy?
yeah, so Andy did that. Yeah, I haven't drawn all of them, but I have been working on them since the beginning.
Did you come up with like a weird expression?
Yeah.
What you do? How do you come up with those? They're so ridiculous and funny that every time I look at them, I have to stop them.
Oh, thanks. Well, I mean, we all sort of have our own version of. It's called a take when a cartoon freaks out. Like the classic version is like when the eyeballs pop all the way out of their head, you know. And it's just about taking the features that are already there and pushing them as far as you feel you can push them in the extreme. And then also like knowing what looks funny, you know. So, I mean, it's just a lot of trial and error. Oh, thanks. I just steal it all from Ren and Stimpy, that's all.
I knew it.
See, you in the spike hoodie?
Yes, the hardest to draw.
The hardest comic to draw?
Yes, you draw the part out.
The one I'm working on right now is going to be the hardest because it has like battle scenes and like destruction and all the whole main six and all the background ponies. So that's going to be pretty taxing. But the hardest one was probably the Granny and Flim Flam Brothers one, just because it took place at a convention. So imagine in a normal issue, it's just somebody in a room talking to somebody else, or somebody in a Sweet Apple Acres talking to somebody else. And in this issue, it would be like the conversation was happening in this room. So it would be me talking to Heather, and in the background would be all of you. So much harder to draw all of that. Yours was 16?
Mine was 16. I think that's a terrible issue. It's my favorite and the worst.
Yeah, I think my hardest is the same as Tony's. It's like I hated coloring that issue so much.
Imagine if you had a comic scripted by Alan Moore.
Oh yeah. But on that issue, I did give you. I draw little arrows with the words to tell her who everybody was, just
But
because.
I still had to color them.
Yeah,
That was
sure.
the problem.
Did you use a flatter on that one, or did you do it all yourself?
Oh, I did that all myself.
You're crazy for this one.
I only use a flatter if I'm like crazy running out of time or something,
Yeah.
or if it's like an annual where I had to color 48 pages in a week.
Yeah.
Never do that to you.
Well,
Bobby.
Tony.
I mean, Tony, usually you give me a few weeks.
Yeah. I'm not that late.
Yes.
On average, I mean, when you get the script and writers, how long does it take to draw and color the script?
Takes me generally 3 weeks to a month to do an issue. But that's also factoring in like the rest of my life and conventions like this and other covers or like quick jobs and stuff like that. How long does it take you to do 4 pages a day? So that's like a week, right?
Yeah. Usually I finish an issue in 5 to 7 days.
And it took me, I think, 3 weeks to do mine from pencils and inks.
Do you have any tips for drawing like expressions or like perspective?
Well, get Manga Studio as it has a perspective tool built into it, and it makes life so much easier because you can like set up perspective grids is what people always tell me to do, so you have a good idea of how the characters work in space. And Manga Studio pretty much has an automatic like vanishing point tool for you, so it's only $20 for the thing on Amazon, so I highly recommend it if you do digital art. Otherwise, perspective grids suck.
Manga Studio is only $20?
Well, you can get it 20 to 30 on Amazon.
Uh-huh.
It's for Manga Studio 5, I think, is the one that's that cheap right now. I have Manga Studio 4EX, and it's pretty great.
Cool.
I know for me, like for expressions, it's the only time I take a ton of selfies. And I just make the most ridiculous faces I possibly can. And that's I'll just look at it and be like, okay, I look like an idiot. I'm going to do this expression.
Yeah. Or use a mirror, that's the less technical, that's the more Luddite way to do that, would work. Also look at other people. Cool. Was that 10? 10 more questions.
Okay. You in the back.
As an artist trying to break into the industry for the first time, what do you guys feel is the most important part of your portfolio to have to show people?
You want to have storytelling pages. The tricks for portfolios I found is once you have one, start the next one. If you want to go the portfolio way rather than just drawing your own comic, do your pages and then immediately set yourself to doing another set of pages for another thing and then come back and start your other ones. And you want to give yourself about as much time as you'd have to do them if you got the job, so that somebody doesn't hire you and see that you have these elaborate, super detailed pages and then go like, okay, well, give me 22 of these in a month. And you're like, well, there's no way that's going to happen. So if you're going to go the samples way, just sort of treat it like it's your job doing samples. Either find a script online, like there's websites where they just have comic strips, or deconstruct a comic, you know, like buy a comic, look at it, write down what the script for it would be, you know, like this panel, Twilight Sparkle, whatever. And then put the comic aside and draw it how you would draw it.
I agree with Tony on that, yeah.
Yeah, I've always just been told to keep your portfolio up to date is usually the rule of thumb. They don't want to see that you had like, I drew this awesome thing 5 years ago. They want to see that you've been doing work this whole time.
Would you like to show?
It's a
everyone what you're
nervous
drawing?
tick. No, it's because of money.
People.
I sold this thing already. She sold that already, and we don't want to have to give the money back. So we have to
That's like-
finish before the end
I'm
of the
just
show.
faster than they are, so I'm done.
Yeah, it's like I got these like really time restricted commissions
Yeah.
where they're leaving soon, and I was like, oh no, I have a panel. I guess I should do this right now.
I'm
Yeah.
working on vinyl scratch, holding a little vinyl scratch. The little vinyl scratch is going to be holding an even littler vinyl scratch.
Yeah, it's like I had the character from Street Fighter and April O'Neil from the new Turtles.
I have Invisible Woman. How accurate is that?
Very good. How much? What do you sell? Do you sell those for 20?
25.
25. And my full body, full colors are 100, but there's no more at the show. But if you come by, I can draw sketches for $20 towards the end.
I have a manager who handles all that stuff.
You don't even say.
I don't even know. Like he makes prices. He's just like, you just sit there, you make art. I have the brains.
Ah, that's condescending.
No, it's okay. It's true.
Well, artists aren't really business people. Like, I kind of wish that art school would actually focus on that because I think
teach us.
Yeah, it's like I took like a class senior year that was like half a semester that went a little into the business side of things, but I'm like, I don't know how to do my taxes or anything. What am I supposed to do?
Okay, I think we have time
Okay,
for
good.
2 more questions. So,
So when you're working on a comic, do you draw the pages and panels in the order that they happen, or do you sometimes start from that?
When I'm laying out the book, I go in order just so that the storytelling is consistent. Say Pinkie Pie puts a hat on in one page. If I have to draw the next one next, that way she still has the hat on. If I drew it out of order, she'd have a hat, she wouldn't have a hat. Like when they shoot a movie out of order and somebody has like a fork full of food and then he has no food. But then when I'm inking, I just ink however, you know, like whatever I feel like inking.
That was kind of how I did Friends Forever. I did everything in order, but when it came to inking, I just kind of grabbed a page.
okay, I guess one more question. Good one.
I went to the Art Institute, like they have everywhere. Mine was in Colorado and Denver. I went for animation.
I also went to the Art Institute out in Southern California, but I went there for fashion design.
I went to the Columbus College of Art and Design, which apparently Sarah Richard also went to.
Oh.
And I majored in animation, even though I ended up not caring about doing animation.
So I think we might have time for one more. So you hasn't asked. You?
Okay.
You color for like set characters as drawn by 11 different people. And my question is, when you do that, do you have like, okay, rainbow dash is supposed to be this color, and no matter who's drawing it, they color, or do you sort of change the tone based on the drawing style?
Well, usually I try to stick to the set palette that pretty much Hasbro gave me like an entire thing of like Pantones and a style guide, which gave me all the colors of all the main characters and princesses and stuff. But yeah, usually I just keep it the same unless it's like a different like crazy lighting situation, or if like the artist did something like really stylized. Like there's something coming up in the Chrysalis issue that we did that it like took place somewhere where he did really stylized like crazy heavy blacks, and I just used like a crazy limited palette. But usually I play pretty safe just because I don't have a lot of time to experiment. So I think Hasbro prefers that the ponies are the same unless it's a weird lighting situation.
And her doing all the different artists with the same color palette gives it a nice consistency. You can pick it up from month to month, and it always looks like My Little Pony. Because of Heather.
She's the best.
I guess each of our panelists will let you have one last word, and then we'll conclude the panel.
Word.
Okay.
Oh, thanks everybody for coming out. I hope this was an exciting panel. I'm sorry I had my head down the whole time. You guys were great. Excellent questions. Come see us in North Valley.